Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Alan Major Show here on ESPN 730. Alongside the coach, I'm Matt Swierad, joined tonight by Lanny Ford from ESPN 730. Our phone number is 704-332-0173, and we're here to take your phone calls until 8 o'clock tonight. 704-332-0173. We'll also have our email segment. We have all our email questions for today, but if you'd like to get a question in for next week's show, the email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. Niners coming off a loss against Richmond last Saturday, but now home for 3 games in a row. The final 3 home games of the regular season beginning this Wednesday night with the Colonials of George Washington coming to town, and this will be a rematch. These two teams meeting for a second time this season. Coach, it's nice to have this stretch. It's the first time since the middle of December we'll play 3 consecutive home games, and it's the first time in conference play. And we've had so many games on the road. It's nice to get these home games towards the end of the season with a chance to maybe get a little momentum going towards the conference tournament.
Yeah, definitely. And, Halton is obviously, I think our opponents have a concern of playing here, almost the fear of playing here, especially when we rev it up. And the thing I've stressed to the guys is you've got to make it a home court advantage by the way you play. And just the cheerleaders showing up and the band showing up, that's one thing. But, the harder we play and the more energized we play and the more unselfish we play, now it creates a true environment that makes it a home court advantage.
With 4 wins right now in the conference, we're tied with George Washington. We've had some of these games this year with Rhode Island and Fordham that were games, if you won it and you did win, it gave you that head-to-head tiebreaker, also gave you some space between those last 2 teams. Now with GW, a chance to split the season series, so if you get closer towards a tie situation at the end of the year, that's not going to factor in. Then you go head-to-head with other teams, and we've had some good wins this year, beating St. Joe's and teams like that. So this is a big game coming up for a lot of reasons.
Oh, yeah, it is. And you try to, we talked about that with the guys this afternoon to a point, not so much where you're trying to spook guys and say, hey, if we don't win, the world's coming to an end. But you also try to create a sense of urgency that, hey, you got an unbelievable opportunity to take a step forward. You're looking yourself in the mirror at the other team in terms of our record. They got us at their place, and tight game. We had a chance to win, and so you can kind of figure in all those factors of why you should be able to come out and be energized and be ready to play. So we did mention that, and so I think that's a key thing. It's a great opportunity for us to get the season split and also get a leg up on them.
We noticed after the game against Richmond, the comeback, the guys played really hard, put themselves in a position to get a W. And when it didn't happen, it looked like, this is one of the first games in a while where guys are really kind of down after that game. Got to get them back up. And how was practice today as we go forward?
Yeah, we went this morning, so, not too many of our guys are morning people. They're not Starbucks fans like me. But once we got going, we got some things done. We really kind of looked at some of GW's defensive things that they're going to try to do. And then we'll come back tomorrow afternoon and pick up where we left off and put the finishing touches on it. But, that was a tough one. It's funny. I've been reading a book, Bill Walsh, called The Score Takes Care of Itself. It's a wonderful book about building an organization. And one of his stories in the book was his very first season. A lot of people don't know. They were 2-14. In San Francisco, and his very next season they ended up 6-10, and they had a loss in that season. And as he's describing the story, felt a lot like Saturdays. They had lost to the Dolphins and had 3 chances to win. They committed a penalty on one. Actually, 2 plays in a row they committed penalty. Then Miami makes a play, and ends up kicking a field goal to win the game. And he talked about, how it hurt. That particular loss. But then he also talked about, the most successful organizations find a way to stand up and fight. Coaches, players, everybody, man for man, managers, secretary, everybody finds a way to stand up and fight. So that's all we've been talking to the guys about is you still have a chance to write our own story. And as you head into the month of March and you can solidify your place in the conference tournament, at that point, now you got a brand new season, and that's what we're trying to do. Finish strong, play great basketball down the stretch, regardless of the outcome. Let's just finish, playing great. And then, once you get to that deal in Atlantic City, hey, it's 5-on-5 at that point, and you can throw all what's happened at that point out the window.
When you look at, you've had these close games like you've had, like the one, Dayton is one of those that could have went that way, GW earlier. There's a fine line there on how much the guys respond and then how much they go the other way. Do you feel like you're still got them on the positive side, that the loss hurts enough that they don't want to give up, that they want to continue to try to get the next one?
Yeah, and that's the challenge with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And I think when we were all that age and we had things that didn't go our way, sometimes it took a little extra probably for adults then to pull us back. But these guys, for the most part, all year long have come back and they've shown a resilience that's been good. So, but that's the raising kids part of coaching, is trying to continue to paint that big picture of, hey, this is an isolated deal. And I told them that when you bring it, you're one of the best teams in this conference. I believe that with all my heart. Now, our record may not reflect that, but our level of play at times has reflected that based on who we've gone against and how those games have gone down. So, but no, what you try to do is, in those close ones too, you've coached before, you can armchair yourself, armchair quarterback yourself to death. And I know I do too, but no, we just put that one to bed and we're going to move on.
Coach, you have a lot of experience being an assistant coach, but you have a staff here that one in particular, Desmond Oliver, as you're talking about, it's a new season once the conference tournament comes around, who can really tell these guys that, hey, I was at Georgia a couple of years ago, and they made that run where nobody gave them a chance to win the SEC tournament.
Right. They're in the midst of a storm.
Yeah, they had the storm, the tornado, had to play in an alternate location, but yet they found a way to win 4 games in 4 days.
Right.
And they went to the NCAA tournament, so it is certainly possible.
It is. 2 games in a day, matter of fact. And, I was at Xavier in our 3rd year, and we were 10-9 at one point. And the Cincinnati game of all games was coming up next.
I remember that season because we thought you guys were just kind of dead and buried,
Yeah.
and you made that great run towards the end of the year.
Yeah, ended up winning, I want to say 17 out of 19, to finish it. And ironically, one of those wins was a win in the first round of the conference tournament over St. Joe's, who was undefeated. That was the 03-04 season, and Jameer Nelson and company. And we played them in Dayton in the conference tournament, ended up winning the game by 34 points. And all of a sudden, now St. Joe's has a loss. We won 4 games in 4 days, won the conference championship. And so, as Kevin Garnett says, anything's possible.
That's certainly true. And we've got a lot of basketball left before the season over. The season's over. The game on Wednesday is George Washington. Then we still have home games against St. Bonaventure and Duquesne as well. For tickets, just go to charlotte49ers.com or call 704-687-4949. Our phone number here is 704-332-0173. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University from the Wild Wing Cafe broadcast booth here on ESPN 730. Our phone number is 704-332-0173, and we're here until 8 o'clock with the Niners head coach Alan Major. The Bojangles Bowtime segment here talking about the last couple of games the Niners played last week at Dayton and at Richmond. And, Coach, it was a good test. It was a measuring stick because you may face one of these teams, if not both, when you come to conference tournament time again. And I thought, with the Dayton game, when it was all said and done, that's a team that I didn't care if it was there or here or someplace else. I wouldn't mind playing again because I thought we matched up pretty well with them.
Yeah.
And we were without DeMario Mayfield that night. And that, he's been averaging a double-double lately. Mm-hmm. And I thought a full complement of players. I like to play those guys again. I think we match up pretty well.
Yeah.
And against Richmond, we know we've split with them twice already anyway, one time each. And two teams that certainly if we meet again, you got to feel confident about your chances.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. And even without Day playing, we had our chances. I thought we played about 32-33, really good minutes at Dayton. Had them, right on the pace in terms of where we want them in the first half, 30 points, which when our magic number is, when people are in the 60s, we feel like we got a pretty good chance. So we were right on that pace, and unfortunately the Johnson kid got loose and got going in the second half, made some big shots. And then obviously Richmond had been averaging 70 points a game. And so, to hold them to 53 on their home floor, unfortunately we only had 52. But, and people will always kind of point to the very last play because that's the one you remember. But, there were probably a dozen plays throughout the game, no matter where they're located, that can have an effect on the ending, And unfortunately we didn't shoot free throws well that night too. But that's the picture we try to paint to the guys is that, hey, you're right there. And it's funny in that Walsh book, and one of his comments is that you have to be in the fight to win the fight. And you start going through all these teams in the league, and we're one of them. Our scoring margin and our points allowed and points given up. Points scored and points given up are right about the same. I mean, we're almost even in terms of how much we are with our opponents. It's incredible. Here it is GW. I mean, 68-9, they give up and right at 65. So all these teams are really, Dayton was 70 and 67. So everybody's playing a one-possession game of sorts, really, when you look at it. So it's all those little things that matter. And as we continue to grow and improve this last 2 weeks, that's what we have to continue to embrace.
Has it been in purpose the way you guys have kind of slowed the game down a little bit? You're not really working a lot of clock. You're taking as much time as you can on your possessions to maybe shorten the game a little bit because it has been a little bit tougher to score above 70 recently.
Yeah, some of that. Some of that's the opponent, too. Richmond's games are a little different because they probably work the ball a little bit more than most people with the Princeton stuff. Traditionally Princeton teams are very patient. They're going to run you down to the end of the shot clock and, get you down to that 8 or 10 second mark before they shoot. So that shortens the game for you too. By them doing it, it shortens the game for both teams. But, my thing is I've always wanted to play as fast as we can and take care of the basketball. And, obviously when we lost Luka, you lost the ball handler. You lost a little bit of depth, and it puts a pinch on other guys in terms of minutes, whereas, some of those games where we had those 9, 10 guys going, you had fresh bodies, and you really didn't care. You were able to maybe open up the game a little bit more. So, when the bench got shorter, it probably just forced us to shorten things a little bit in terms of our tempo.
Did that maybe cut back on the aggressiveness, too, because you have to kind of stay out of foul trouble? Perrier picked up that third foul, and it kind of changed what you wanted to do out there.
A little bit, yeah, that does. And, obviously he's a big part of what we do at the point guard spot. So, yeah, that does. I mean, it forces guys to be a little bit more cautious. And that's the thing. You still want them to play hard, and you don't want them to play careful. And usually the harder you play, the less you foul. So, but that's a part of it, too.
One of the things that I noticed at the Dayton game that it sort of took Dayton's offense out a little bit. I thought they got frustrated with the defensive pressure they were putting on, getting roughed up a little bit. And if the Johnson kid had not gotten hot, that game probably would have gotten out of hand in our favor.
Right.
For the simple reason they really couldn't do the things that they wanted to do from us defensively.
Yeah, I thought defensively our first 10 to 12 minutes were as good as we've had all season. At the second media timeout, Dayton had 7 points. So, it's a matter of, as you wore on, and unfortunately we had some foul trouble. Victor had some foul trouble. Perrier had a little foul trouble, so some different guys had some foul trouble, and we were down a man. So that affected our depth a little bit. But that, I think what you mentioned there, Lanny, that's a snapshot of how we want to defend is what you saw in the start of that Dayton game.
Yeah, the start of that game I thought was one of the best games that we had seen as far as all-out effort.
It was, and that's the getting better part that we're talking about. So, and even though we fell short to Richmond, I felt like we were a slightly better basketball team than we were, a couple of days before. So, we want to continue that trend here in this last 2 weeks.
Now, Coach, our phone number here is 704-332-0173, 704-332-0173. We got a special guest that's going to be joining us, Lauren Hibbs, the head baseball coach for the Niners, coming off a great opening weekend, winning all 3 of their games with a rainout yesterday against St. Peter's. So we'll talk to Coach Hibbs coming up in a moment. Again, this is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group.
back to Wild Wing Cafe broadcast booth for the Allen Major Show. You can catch a video replay of the show on UNC Charlotte Cable TV Channel 22 on Time Warner Cable numerous times this Tuesday and Wednesday. Just tune in to Channel 22 for all show times on Time Warner Cable.
Lanny, our special guest today is the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers, Lauren Hibbs, brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improved. And, Coach, always great to see you. How you doing?
It's good to be here.
Had a great weekend. You opened the season this past week against St. Peter's, a 4-game series with the rain out yesterday, but you won the first 3. And I know it was a lot of anticipation going into the year coming off of last season. It's good to get that season started, isn't it?
No doubt. Wish we could have got 4 games in, but we got 3. St. Peter's was a veteran team. They got 14 seniors. We knew it was going to be a pretty difficult weekend. I thought we played pretty well. We pitched pretty well, played pretty good defense. We still got some issues we got to iron out offensively, and I think in a couple other areas, but we addressed those in practice today and get a chance to go to High Point, play our first road game tomorrow. High Point's picked to finish the top of the Big South, and that's going to be a challenge for us.
Before we get into the season and some of the players, and I want to talk about your coaching staff as well, one of the former Niner greats, Adam Mills, drafted by the Red Sox, got to AAA with Boston. I'm not sure where he is right now. Hopefully you can give us some insight on that. But you're going to retire his jersey this weekend. So tell us about the weekend with the jersey retirement and where he is now.
We're trying to get him back to pitch, but they won't let us do that. So
I'm still trying to get Byron Dinkins back, too, to play basketball.
Really. I heard he could really play still. So Mills is living here in the Charlotte area, going to get married here shortly, and just a tremendous young man. 5'11" right-handed pitcher that ends up pitching as high as AAA is a pretty significant accomplishment. Retiring his jersey on Saturday. It's a 4 o'clock start, which is a little bit different game time for us on Saturday. He's going to have about 25 to 30 family members and friends in attendance, so it's going to be a good deal if the weather holds up. And again, just a guy that came in as a freshman throwing mid-80s that really worked hard to develop not only his breaking ball but his fastball and changeup. And Brandon Hall, our pitching coach, was involved in recruiting him on the front end and did a great job developing him. And Mills is just kind of a poster child for what we've done pitching-wise here in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So happy to get his jersey retired. Number 31 is going to go on the shelf permanently. And just a good deal for Adam, his family, and great deal for our program.
Probably the pitcher that's had the most success in recent years is John Maine. And he's had the shoulder injury when he was with the Mets. And now he's just signed a minor league deal with the Boston Red Sox, going to camp as a non-roster guy. But he was one of your first big stars in your program to go to the major leagues and have a lot of success. And what does that mean as you build a program to finally get some of these guys at the highest level? And now the guys you're bringing in, you got the new stadium as the program continues to get bigger and bigger. But to sell it, what did it mean to have a guy like John Maine?
It meant good tickets at Mets games.
That's true.
Years, I'll tell you that. Really good tickets. But with him and Jason Stanford, was another kid that we had early on. Left-handed pitcher out of junior college in Kansas at Barton County Community College. And with those guys, and Rob Lyerly was a 6th-round pick for us a few years ago. He's in AA now with the Yankees, and I can go on and on. Brian Treadway was a 3rd-round pick, and all these other guys that we've had that have been fortunate enough to coach him, and they've played at the professional level. It means a lot for recruiting. It means a lot that those guys want to come back and hang out with our players and work out with our players. Mills did when he was playing. Spencer Steedley, who's in AA with the Twins, is now working out with our guys. Maine's been back a lot, throwing bullpens and working out. So just to have our guys around that type of environment every day and see the work ethic that those guys have is just really tremendous for our current players, and it's really helped us in recruiting.
We played you guys. I say we, the Charlotte Knights, played an exhibition game against you all last
season.
We? Yeah, that
Pretty
was a lot of fun.
Too,
it was a good time. And I'll tell you what, after the game, as you guys were leaving, I went down to the locker room and was talking with Joe McEwing, who was the Knights manager at the time, and Richard Dotson, our pitching coach, and they were just so blown away by some of the young pitchers you threw that night, and the level of baseball ability you had on that team. I know you have on this year's team. Your pitching staff, it's fantastic, and Coach Hall's done a great job developing these young guys.
Well, and again, he's been with us for 10 years, and I caught a little bit of heat for hiring him, 10 years ago, so he didn't have a whole lot of experience, but he was the right guy, and we just have a great working relationship. He's been promoted now where he's associate head coach, and he's going to be a tremendous coach at some point in time. I keep telling him we're trying to delay that as much as we can because we just value him, and the ability to recruit pitchers and develop those guys has really allowed me and allowed our program to really develop to its fullest extent. So with him and And Chris Rochelle, former catcher for us that works with our position players. I don't think Chris quite gets enough credit for working with our catchers and developing those guys, because that's a big part of what we do pitching-wise as well. And then we've played pretty darn good defense here, too, for the last 6-7 years. So it all kind of ties in together. And, again, I can't say enough about those guys and what they've done to help me be a better head coach, too. I think it's part of it. I know Alan was talking about it a little bit earlier, the staff, and we've talked about it as coaches amongst, in the athletic department. So it's important. You got to have all those pieces in place, and we want to keep it going the right direction. We pitched pretty well this past weekend, and we'll see what we can do again tomorrow at High Point.
We're talking with Niners head coach Lauren Hibbs, the baseball coach here. And, Coach, you got High Point tomorrow. And as you look at this season, you've got a target on your back now in the A-10 because you've done such a great job since joining the conference that you're certainly one of the teams, if not the team, that people aim to beat every year. It makes it more difficult, but also makes it a little bit more fun, I would imagine. You like being the front runner?
If we win, it is. We welcome it. Some people kind of run and hide from it. But we've always, for 20 years now, we've welcomed the opportunity to be good and try to play good teams. And, I think it's better to try to approach it that way than, be scared or be timid about it. So we know the target's on us. We know what happens every weekend and every time we go on the road in conference play, and it's going to be tough. But if you welcome it and you use it to your advantage, I think it can help build a program. And that's what we've tried to do. So, again, we kind of try to go game by game. It sounds like a cliche, but we try to go game by game and try to win on Tuesday and then have a good practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and then roll out there again against Toledo on Friday.
Your background's at Wichita State, a lot of success there. When you came here, trying to get the program going again, you had a vision for it. You kept fighting for the stadium. You got it, and it's been, just been going uphill ever since in terms of the program rising up. And the mid-major poll came out, one of the top 10s in one of the top 10 teams in the country. And they say mid-major because we don't have not a BCS conference right now. But in baseball, it doesn't matter, what conference you play in. When you get to the NCAA tournament, you're playing for the College World Series. You guys went out to Tempe last year and got that win the first round game, and it gave you a taste of what it's like to win there. Now you just try to get to the next level, right?
Yeah, and we've played good teams in non-conference. Year after year, we've had 4 years in a row where we've beat a team that's ranked 7th or higher, in the country, and that's pretty significant. So beat the number 1 RPI last year in the country, and again, we got a chance this year. We go to Missouri. Missouri just beat Auburn 2 out of 3 this weekend. We go to Georgia Tech for 3, and Georgia Tech is one of the top teams in the country. So we welcome the opportunity to play those type of teams. Played Dallas Baptist last year at their place, and I had a guy the other day ask me if Dallas Baptist was Division I. I kind of started laughing because they can really play. And they won a regional last year at TCU and got beat by Cal in the Super Regional, just 2 wins away from going to Omaha. So we welcome the opportunities, and again, we're just trying to keep this thing going in the right direction.
Give us a couple of highlights of what we can look forward to this year. Some of the individual guys returning, and guys that you expect to be leaders in this team.
Ross Steedley, catcher for us, Miguel Rodriguez, both those guys catch, and that's such a critical position. It's like Alan probably deals with point guards. You've got to have a guy that can really make good decisions out there in the flow of the game, and our catchers do a great job with that, with having 2 guys like that. Andrew Smith is a senior, is All-American, returning All-American for us, just probably the toughest kid physically and mentally, one of the toughest kids we've ever had the pleasure of coaching, from Butler High School here in Charlotte. And several other guys, Shane Brown, who's kind of an under-the-radar guy that really has developed into a quality player for us from North Meck High School. And Joe Yermel's kind of battled through some arm issues, and a guy that's throwing in the 4-hole for us now that was throwing as a Friday night guy his freshman year, and now it's kind of been bumped back to the 4-hole. But a redshirt senior that's kept his head up. He hasn't gotten upset about a little bit of a lesser role because he understands how important those midweek games are for us. And, there's several other guys, Tyler Pilkington and Chad Rothland, don't get a whole lot of credit, but they're guys that throw out of the bullpen for us, and that's critical in terms of how we're trying to approach each and every game. And then everybody knows about Barnett and Corey Roberts. Those guys were freshman All-Americans for us. And then some young guys, Brad Elwood and Leland Clemens and Brett Lang and Derek Galello are all freshmen that got a chance to be good players. And some other guys, that are kind of filtered in there a lot of people haven't heard a whole lot about, but they're going to develop into good players as time goes on. So we'll see. I don't like to predict a whole lot. any coach that tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying to you because they don't really know. We just kind of try to go out there and prepare the right way every day and try to make the best of each and every day we get a chance to get out on the field.
I think a lot of folks that don't really follow the program that closely don't realize that the college game, it's difficult in terms of getting your pitchers ready to go once you get into the month of April and May, because there's not a game every day. It's hard to get them stretched out. You want to get everybody innings, but you also want to win the games because your schedule is short.
Winning
we're
is
joking
important.
around. Yeah, we're joking around off here. I'm used to playing 144. If we're going to lose 70, it's going to happen. We're used to it. But you guys, you have such a shorter season. There's so much more emphasis on every night trying to win. It's difficult to get everybody stretched out, isn't it, at times?
It is, and we were talking earlier, as you said, the last time we went to High Point, we lost a tough game, and you were actually up there, and I kind of ignored you in the parking lot afterwards. I apologize for that, but, it's just so much more magnified. We get 56 chances to play, and you got to make the most of them. I mean, you really have to, and our guys understand that, and our coaching staff understands that, and again, we're just trying to do everything we can to prepare the right way and maximize each chance we get to get out there and practice and play.
What's the A-10 look like right now?
Rhode Island can play. Xavier can play. They beat Chapel Hill at Chapel Hill this past weekend. Richmond didn't get off to a good start this weekend, but they're going to be pretty good. St. Louis, same deal. They didn't get off to a very good start, but they're going to be pretty good. I think it's a little bit top-heavy now. There's probably 5 or 6 or 7 teams that can, by the time conference play comes around, that they can play with just about anybody in the top 45, top 50 teams in the country. And then we got some teams at the bottom that, quite frankly, probably need to get a little bit better for us to really get the league where we want to get it to. But we're excited to play in the league. Every time we go on the road, it's very difficult. Every time we play at home, because we're going to get everybody's best shot, as you alluded to a little bit earlier. And I think that people seen us enough, over the last 6 or 7 years we've been in the league. They understand how we're going to play. I've seen the recruiting really pick up from certain programs, trying to play a little bit faster, trying to be a little bit more athletic. And, we got our hands full once conference play because everybody has their pitching lined up at that point in time. Early in the season, they don't. But once we get to conference play, they got their pitching lined up and they're ready to go.
Conference play or weekend series, do you try to go with that number one guy on Friday? In a perfect world?
Yeah, we try to think that we got 3 number ones. That's kind of maybe a little bit different philosophy. Andrew Smith threw really well for us last year, but Barnett probably would have been a number 1 on most teams in our league, and Roberts definitely would have been a number 1. And if you got 3 guys of that caliber, and then we go to the bullpen, when we need to. We don't get the pitch counts up too high. Brandon does a great job of managing that. We have a plan going in to every game, and I give him a lot of freedom. I just want to make sure we got a right-hander and a left-hander loose. And you talked about Johnny Hamilton. I kind of forgot about him. He's got 2 saves so far this year, and you mentioned that he was the closer. We kind of got about 4 or 5 guys that we can use in that role. So very interchangeable lineup, very interchangeable pitching staff, and when our guys are called on, they understand if they're the hot guy, we're going to stay with them. They're going to stay in the game. If they're not, we're going to get somebody else in there that's got a chance to get out. So, again, try to be flexible with that and do the best we can to score 1 more run than the opponent and get that last out when we're at home.
I've been so impressed when you look at some of the stats during the last few years of your team ERA, individual ERAs. A lot of times, even Division I great programs that have won national championships have tough times finding guys with ERAs under 3. And you've had in conference play a staff ERA around 2. You've had guys that are under 2. Adam Mills had that great career with the 49ers, keeping his ERA under 2 at a lot of times.
Like under 1, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they can accomplish that. And again, it goes back to a lot of what you guys are doing, coaching these guys, and Coach Hall and what he's doing.
Well, and again, in 2007, we were just lights out pitching-wise. Anytime you can run Mills and Steedley out there as your 1-2, and then Rosenbaum, who ended up being a pro guy in a 3-hole, and then Rochelle did a great job catching all those guys. 2008 was a little bit of a step back pitching-wise for us. We were really good offensively, still won the league, and played decent in the regional, and then got back on track again. 2009, we were pretty good, and then 2010 and 2011, we just been lights out again and again. Brandon just does such a great job in our plan and practice plan with what I want to get accomplished every day in practice, and the unity that Brandon and I have and the working relationship we have has been a really good deal, and it's been giving us a chance to be productive on the field and giving us a chance to have continuity in recruiting and just again trying to do everything we can to score 1 more run than the opponent.
Just got a great note from Tom Whitestone. This is fantastic. you have a higher team GPA than ERA. Only team in the country
Some
probably
of our
can say
guys
that.
do.
Huh?
Yeah, some of our guys do. We had 23 guys that had a 3.0 or better last semester.
That's great.
It's unbelievable. And I got to give the props out to my wife, Lisa, who's the director of our Athletic Academic Center. Her staff does a great job. And it's just, again, it's part of what we talked about 20 years ago when we were hired, trying to build this thing the right way. And we've had people be patient with us, and we've been very, very productive. So there's a slim margin for errors, we all know, in every sport, whether it's basketball or football or baseball. And we're just trying to stay humble and trying to work every day and trying to go out there and have our guys represent UNC Charlotte in the athletic department, our baseball program, in the right way.
Finally, before I let you go, just one quick question. Getting to play your home games now at Hayes Stadium, and I've been there on some weekends where the crowds are fantastic, and it's a true home field advantage now when you guys are at home.
It's great. We got to give Judy credit for getting Miriam Hayes and the Hayes family to help us out and build that place. It's a great place to play. It's helped us in recruiting. It's helped us in so many different ways, and the student support now has gotten to the point where Friday our home opener was about as loud as I've heard it there, because the student support has been really good. And our guys do a good job too. Our guys go to class and they interact with the student body, and that's positive, because it's been able to get a lot of people out that maybe wouldn't have come out otherwise. And then having local kids, our roster is filled with local guys. I think that's helped, and we've won. When all those things get combined together, and our marketing staff's done a good job, and our ticket staff's done a good job. We sold out the lower level season tickets again for, I think, the third year in a row, and I think it's just going to continue to get better.
Coach, congratulations on a great opening weekend, and best of luck this year.
Yeah, good being here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Hibbs, Niners head baseball coach, joining us here on the Allen Major Show, brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improve. Back with more with Coach Major, the Allen Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here from Wyoming Cafe University. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Don't forget there is an young alumni chapter event scheduled for February 27th. That's next Monday's Allen Major Show. We hope to see everybody in the Alumni Association out here and have a great turnout that night. Before we get to our email questions, Coach, let's talk about the Time Warner Cable Stat Stuffer brought to us by Time Warner Cable. They're bundled package with TV, internet, and phone. Call 1-800-TW-CABLE today. I'm going to talk about Chris Braswell, who had 16 points and 13 rebounds against Richmond. His sixth double-double of the season, 21st of his career, and now he's just sitting on 992 points. He's 8 away from 1,000. He'll be the 24th Niner to reach 1,000 in his career. But the point I want to talk about, Chris, we talked, I think, before the game against Richmond, and I asked you about Chris's offense, especially in A-10 road games, how he's really picked it up and become a legitimate, scorer where he's going to get 16 or more every game recently, anyway. And you talked about, we want to see him now start to do it on the defensive end. And he had 13 rebounds, and he played, I thought, really well for the 40 minutes against Richmond. And when he's doing it on both ends, he is definitely one of the better top 5 post guys in this conference.
Without question. Yeah, without question. And I know, we'll see Big Andrew Nicholson this weekend, and you got to put him in there. But, Braz has shown the ability to expand this game. And I think as guys get better, you go from a sophomore to a junior year, you show improvement by doing things and showing the capability of doing things that you couldn't do before. So to his credit, he's shown the ability to step out and knock in an occasional jump shot. He's used his left hand this year a lot more, and probably more this year than he has, in the first 2 years combined. Because a lot of people when we got here said, Kid Braswell's really talented, but he seems to go right a lot. And when we watched some film in the summer of the Coach Lutz's team, before we got here, or when we got here, and watching Braz in particular, I kind of noticed that he be in the high post a lot. He'd drive it right, and what he added last summer was the ability just to use your left hand from time to time, and whether it's on tip ins or laying the ball in away from contact. So he's improved. So any good team and a team that has a chance to continue to keep playing, especially this time of year, you always want to have a guy that you have great confidence you can throw the ball to, and you feel like something good's going to happen.
All right, Coach, we'll go over to the Alumni Association email basket, and
Yes, sir.
We'll get started right here as quick as we can. First question comes for Forever Niner. Said, I hate it when the team loses so many close games. Chance to win at Richmond was right there. We always fight back to get back in games but can't seem to finish them. Whether it's turnovers, free throw shooting, poor possessions, or just finding a way not to get it done. I like it that we don't quit. That said, how can we get better results, and what can we do to correct it?
Just embracing the little things. I think anytime a game's tight, it just comes down to the little things. And really trying to control those things you can control. Obviously free throws is one that you have some degree of control over. It's more mental. It's good that we got there enough times to have chances to win it. But I think it just comes down to little things, whether it's a defensive stop, whether it's a block out here or there. But again, I'm with him. The fact that we're right there, and I hate to lose them probably as much as anybody, times 10. But you're 1 point away or one play away from winning the game too. And, putting ourselves in position right now, obviously we would love to have the result. But I would rather be in position to win than have that clock kicking down. You have that helpless feeling. You got no chance.
Just wait for it to be over.
Chance whatsoever. That is as tough as losing is. That's probably a worse feeling when you got no chance at all.
Coach, this next one comes from Frank Harmon. You were kind enough to take my question last week and earlier in the year. Who do you think will develop as a go-to scorer from this team besides Braswell? With JB graduating, even though he's had some games where the defense has taken him out of the game, he was a scorer for us. Do you think it'll be Henry or Williams or Nickerson, or who do you think will become that go-to guy?
That's a heck of a question. I think all the three young guys, they may not be ready for that quite next year. They're all going to have fantastic springs and summers in terms of their improvement. We'll make certain of that. But you never know. One of those guys could. Terrence is probably the best, probably has the purest one-on-one ability of the three. Victor just has a knack of getting fouled. It always seems like, he gets in there and he's at the foul line or he's on the offensive boards. Perrier has a little bit more of a defensive game, but he's shown some games where he can get to the paint and make some plays. So the guy I would throw in there is maybe DeMario in terms of maybe having a chance to be a guy with his ability to drive the ball.
We've seen that in spurts.
He's a big guard. He's another ball handler. He can kind of hurt you in some different ways on the glass and, ability to drive it and finish. So I think he could be a guy down the line, especially as his shooting improves. He's been streaky somewhat this year, hadn't shot it great, but he's going to improve that over the spring and summer again as well. So I think he could be a guy, in addition to those three, he could be another guy in that mix that could emerge in that role.
Two questions that are related. Charles C. Pickens wants to know about the team's free throw inconsistency, and then Tommy Holbrooks from over in Bessemer City says, rough week last week, but I'm a fan and look for positive. We had a chance to win the game Saturday with comeback late. Good defense, good rebounding, gave us a chance. The free throw line then killed us. And he was talking about, he read an article last week in the Observer about a free throw expert who had worked with teams about their free throws. And then Mark Long was kind enough to find out his name is Cobb Carlson, based in Massachusetts. And he had done this article came from some of the stuff he had done with Davidson about free throw shooting. And we can have the good nights, but we also have the nights that are not very good.
Yeah, no, and again, that's mental. I think that's you have the up and down of a team that's got some youth, got some inexperience, still building confidence, especially in key parts of the game. Going through those tough times where there's times that rim seems like it's big as an ocean, and then you'll have those nights where it's you feel like you're shooting a big ball into a Nerf hoop. So, but I think it's more mental. To me, that's the biggest thing. Each guy getting into his own routine and just developing peace with his own routine. So we'll continue to plug away at it.
Just a final note on this. We've talked about it. The six best nights that we've shot the ball at the free throw line, 80% or more, we've not won those games.
Right.
And I just say that because a game like Richmond where you could say, well, if we made a couple more, when you lose a game, you don't shoot them well. That's always something that someone will
Sure.
point out. But there are other things that happen during the course of a game.
Absolutely.
You can't just pin it on
Right.
a couple of missed free throws.
Right, right, and no, that's that's a controllable element, but also there's a defensive stop. There's plays that happen with 17 minutes to go in the first half that are pivotal to the game
Momentum
because
swingers.
all basketball it's a series of about 75 or 81 possession battles, and so along this continuum of all these little one possession battles, you have a lot of things that influence the outcome, and some of those influence momentum in terms of a team getting a lead, meaning that a deflection can lead to a steal, which leads to a layup, which leads to an 8-0 run, which leads to a timeout. All because of deflection. So that's how games change, and an 8-0 run can go from a team being up 27-22 to being up 35-22 or being down 30-27. Just that 8-0 run because of that one deflection. And you're talking about two entirely different complexions of a ball game just with that right there. So, I've been going through the game in terms of all those little things, and free throws are the ones that you look at because it sticks out on the stat sheet and that stat. But we're trying to get obviously our guys to understand that all those things matter: free throws, the blockouts, the execution. All those little things figure in, and where can you get that 1 point back as you get better as a team? And now as you get better, can you get 2 points better or 4 points? Because sometimes you'll need those 4 to beat somebody by 1.
Niners have 3 home games coming up in a row, so Niner fans take advantage of the 10% discount before and after home games right here at Wild Wing Cafe University. So fly on over the wing before and after Niner home games with your ticket, and you get 10% off your entire order. We'll take a break here at the Wild Wing Cafe University broadcast booth. The Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We've got a few minutes left if you want to try and get through and give us a phone call and talk to Coach Major. Niners have 2 games this week and 3 games in a row coming up at home at Halton to finish out the home schedule. So come out to Halton Arena on Wednesday for the game against George Washington and Saturday against St. Bonaventure. And that's when the Niners will be supporting the Organ Donor Awareness with Life Share of the Carolinas. So please visit the Niners website for more information. That's charlotte49ers.com. Coach, got a few more questions here on the email basket, so we'll try and get a few more in before the night is over.
Coach, this one's from Ron Granger. Said he didn't get to see the Dayton game, but saw in the box score where E. Victor was assessed with a technical. What was the technical call? Since radio commentators said they couldn't see who got the T, did it fuel Dayton for a comeback win at home? And we thought it was on Braz. That's what we had called because he was the one that continued to talk, and then it turned out it was on E. Victor.
Yeah, I think one of their guys bumped him, number 35. The explanation I got, and this is verbatim from the official, because I was kind of out of my mind too, like, wait a minute. But when all the kids got to half court, Kavanaugh kid bumps Victor, and Victor, they both got assessed the technical. And he was going to hit Kavanaugh first. And according to the ref, Victor said something, back to the guy, back off me, whatever it is. According to the ref, if you say anything back at all, then it's a double. Versus, if I bump Matt and I say, hey, whatever, blah, blah, and he keeps his mouth quiet, then I get the T. So as crazy as it sounds to me, you're asking an 18, 19-year-old kid to walk away from getting bumped by a guy, out of nowhere. So I don't know if it fueled the win. I think, their kid Johnson making some shots, and to their credit, he's a senior. He's been through a lot, made a lot of big plays in his career. I thought he was probably a little bit more influential in terms of the outcome of the game as opposed to that. Technicals always incite the crowd a little bit. They get the guy that's maybe had a few pops up there, a little excited and, kind of roused it up in the stands. But I thought the Johnson kid probably had more of an impact on the game in terms of helping Dayton be successful.
Coach, this one comes from Dave Washam. He said, I can't understand the 49er fans who don't like the A-10, wish we were still in Conference USA. Conference USA is nowhere near what it was when it was originally formed, and the A-10's proven to be a multiple NCAA tourney bid league since we joined in 05. The league is very strong. We just haven't made our mark yet. You've coached it in the A-10 with Xavier and now with Charlotte. Do you think the fans who don't like the A-10 can just get away from the Northeast perception of the league?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's part of it. I think you run into maybe the rivalry part where, I think fans always enjoy the ability to get mad at the team that's close by, quite frankly. I mean, I think that's what it is. And but no, I mean, the A-10, the last time I checked, and you guys may know, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're 7th in the RPI in terms of power conferences, which really puts you right behind the Big Six. In a nutshell, that's what you're saying. So at one point, there were 9 teams in the top 100 in the RPI. Probably looking at a year where, according to old Joey brackets, they're up at Hawk Hill and St. Joe's, Joe Lenardi. Probably thinking 3 or 4 potentially teams in the NCAA. You're probably going to have another potential 2 to 3 NIT, another potential couple, CBI or whatever. So you're talking a huge chunk of the conference that's going to continue playing on in March. I mean, that's a spectacular compliment to this league. So I think with the fans, I would agree with David with the question. It's a little bit more regional because if your neighbor or your rival is right around the corner, it's a little easier to throw a punch at him, when he's right next to you, or that guy's coming, by real soon. But no, I think the A-10's tremendous. But I think that regional perception there is a factor. I would agree.
Well, Coach, another show's in the book. Thanks so much. We appreciate it, and best of luck on Wednesday and again on Saturday.
Thanks, fellas. See you Wednesday.
Good evening from Wild Wing Cafe University.